All right, we'll give people a couple of minutes to log in and then we'll get started. We'll hang around till about 7:03. All right, we'll give one more minute and then we'll get started. All right, y'all. Welcome to Ben's Read. My name is Alex Troutman, and I will be your host for tonight. Tonight is the second installment of our four-part series of Ben's Read. We have two more left, July 13th at 7 p.m. and September 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you have a suggestion for a book or if you want more info, you can reach me at alex@bims.org. All right. So today's book is by the lovely Dr. Jeanette Davis, aka Dr. Ocean. She's a best-selling author, research scientist, and diversity advocate. As a microbiologist, she has worked globally, speaking about her research and contributing to the field of ocean science. Dr. Davis gained her BS in Marine and Environmental Science from Hampton University and a PhD in Marine Microbiology from the University of Maryland. Her research ranges from using molecular tools to study invasive species, fishery management, and marine drug discovery. Dr. Davis is cited in Science, where she helped discover a marine microbe associated with a Hawaiian sea slug and its algal diet that produces an anti-cancer compound. Some of her notable awards and accomplishments include the North American Invasive Species Management Association, Rita Breed Visionary Leadership Award, the Women of Color Technology Rising Star Award, co-authoring the White House Science and Technology Ocean Dedical Plan, where she led the chapter on oceans and human health. And last but not least, she is a founding member of Black and Marine Science. Right, so here's some pictures of Dr. Davis doing some of her science work and some of the inspiring quotes that I found the most helpful for me for her. And I'll read one of them. So the one that I like the most is, you are not restricted by people's limited perception of what a scientist looks like. Be authentic because science is for everyone. And I really like that because as a scientist, people believe that scientists are like cookie cutters. Every scientist should be the same, but we are not. We all come in very different, from different backgrounds, different races. We all are different and unique, and we should all celebrate that authenticity. And I'm thankful that Dr. Davis pushes us to do that in this quote right here. All right. In this book, JADA'S Adventures Under the Sea. Have any of you guys ever been under the sea? What was that experience like? And if you answer no, would you ever journey under the sea if given the chance to do so? So for me, I have technically been under the sea when I'm swimming. My head is underwater, but I haven't yet to go on a journey like Jada, where I'm scuba diving in the deep parts of the sea. But hopefully by August, I will be able to be scuba certified and go on this journey, just like Jada is going to go through in this book that we're reading today. So today's book is Jada's Journey Under the Sea. And again, it's written by Dr. Jeanette Davis. So here's some questions that we will try to answer from the book as we read it tonight. So the first one is, how many sea turtle species are there? What are all the species of sea turtles? Can you name 3 things that the ocean provides for humans? What's the largest group of marine life? How can we help the ocean and marine life? What is the process called when 2 or more different animal species live together in a relationship? What's the example of this relationship from under the sea? What are the 3 types of marine mammals? And 7, what percent of the planet is covered by the ocean? And 3 bonus question is, what is the largest and smallest sea turtle species? What is the largest fish species? And what is one type of fish that has a skeleton made of cartilage? Don't worry if you do not know these answers. We will go through them as we're reading the book. And the bonus questions, I will answer at the end of the book, at the end of the reading, and we will all be able to know these answers and share with our friends at the conclusion of tonight's event. So let's get started. My name is Jada, and I think science is fun. Science is cool. Science is everywhere, and science is for everyone. There are so many sciences and so much to explore and see. My favorite science is the study of the ocean. It's called oceanography. Do you ever think about what's beneath the deep blue ocean? It's fascinating. Life, chemistry, and deep waves in motion. The ocean waves cover about 71% of our planet Earth. It's the largest habitat, so it must be value and worth. The ocean is massive. There's so much to explore and see. Let's take a dive and journey under the sea. The ocean is home to unique animals and interesting creatures. Just like land, it has mountains, trenches, canyons, and many amazing features. The plant life makes oxygen that we need to survive and breathe. They can be microscopic, growing like mats along the sea, or tall like trees. The animals range in color and size. There are so many to go through, but let's explore some of the groups of the ocean animals, just to name a few. Mollusks have soft bodies and are the largest group of marine life. There are sea slugs, octopus, squids, oysters, and other shelled or shellless types. Crustaceans are arthropods with hard shells. Some of them you may have viewed. These are crayfish, lobsters, crabs, shrimp, and other animals we eat as seafood. Fish are diverse. Some are jawless, and some have skeletons made of cartilage or bone. These include ill-shaped fish, fin fish, sharks, and rays that are found throughout the pelagic zones. Marine turtles are the reptiles of the sea. There are only 7 species. There are the flatback, leatherback, hawksbill, green turtle, loggerhead, Kemp's Ridley, and olive ridley. We can't forget about the marine mammals. Some can live on both land and sea. These include seals, whales, dolphins, sea otters, polar bears, and manatees. There are many different animals that live and thrive together in a relationship called symbiosis. These are sponges, corals, fish, mollusks, urchin, and others that live on reefs in closeness. Outside of the life, the ocean has value for me and you. It provides food, the oxygen we breathe, medicines when we're sick too. But there is not just life and other benefits under our sea. There are also plastic, balloons, cans, bottles, and debris. Yes, the ocean is interesting, fascinating, and fun. We can all enjoy the ocean and beaches, but we must be sure to clean up when we're done. The waste causes harm to the life and chemistry in the ocean that we need to thrive. We must stop overfishing and polluting to keep the ocean safe and the animals alive. We can start by reducing our waste, reusing materials, and recycling where we can. We can plant trees, clean beaches, and respect all life. That's the plan. If we want the animals to thrive and use all the benefits of the sea, we must stop the pollution and leave no more human debris. There's so much more of our ocean that hasn't been uncovered. Let's take care of our ocean. There's still much to discover. Thank you, ocean, for what you provide, the food, oxygen, and the wonderful creatures that are wild and free. I'll be sure to take care of you until my next journey under the sea. The end. All right. So let's answer some of these questions. So, how many sea turtle species are there? So, we learned that there are 7 sea turtle species. And what are those species of sea turtles? Those are the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, the loggerhead sea turtle, the olive ridley sea turtle, the leatherback sea turtle, the hawksbill sea turtle, the green sea turtle, and the flatback sea turtle. So we can see all of those sea turtles in the waters around America, except for the flatback, which is around the waters in Australia. All right, question number 2. Can you name 3 things that the ocean provides for humans? So in the book, we learned that the ocean provides not only oxygen and food, but it also provides medicine through some of the organisms that we study. Question number 3. What's the largest group of marine life? In the book, we learned that the largest group of marine life is the mollusks. So those are the squid, octopus, and oysters. How can we help the ocean and marine life? So we can help the ocean and marine life through stop and our polluting and also not overfishing, but also reusing materials. We can reduce our waste, and especially if we're fishing, we can clean up our debris. So that includes like our fishing line, but also if we have boat, our chairs, and fishing gear, we can clean that up because sometimes fish and sea turtles could also get stranded in those debris. So we want to make sure we're doing a good job to clean up our debris, and we can help our sea life and ocean stay clean. What is the process called when two or more different animal species live together in a relationship? So in the book, we learned that this is called symbiosis, or this is a type of relationship called a symbiotic relationship. And that's when two animals are benefiting from each other, working together in their community. And an example of that is clownfish and sea anemones. They have a relationship. The clownfish gets protection from the sea anemone. And then another one that we can think about are whales and remoras, and like rays and remoras as well. So the rays are getting benefit from the remoras by having them clean off some of their leftover food, and the remoras are getting that food, but also some protection from the fish. So what are three types of marine mammals? So in the book, we learned some of the marine mammals are polar bears, seals, and whales. What percent of the planet is covered by the ocean? In the book, Jada Under the Sea, we learned that 71% of our planet is covered by the ocean. So these bonus questions. What is the largest and smallest sea turtle species? So the largest sea turtle species is the leatherback sea turtle. And the smallest sea turtle species is the Kemp's-Ridley sea turtle. So the Kemp's-Ridley sea turtle, another cool thing about the Kemp's-Ridley sea turtle is it's actually one of the only sea turtles that nest during the day. All other sea turtles nest most of the time at night. There are outliers some days, but most of the other sea turtles nest at night, and the Kemp's-Ridley sea turtle is the only one that nests during the daytime. What is the largest fish species? So the largest fish species is the whale shark. And last bonus question, what is one type of fish that has a skeleton made out of cartilage? And a type of fish that has a skeleton made out of cartilage is a shark. So in the book, we learned about there's fish that have bones, so those can be like finfish, and ones that are made out of cartilage. So sharks and rays and skates are all made out of cartilage. All right, and we have a very special guest tonight. We actually have Dr. Davis herself. So we're gonna give a talk and talk to her tonight.
Hi, how are you, Alex?
I'm doing good. How are you, Dr. Davis?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the introduction, for reading the book, but also those questions. Some of the questions are in the back of the book, Jada's Journey Under the Sea, but you added some amazing bonus questions, and I kind of learned something too about the Kemp's Ridley and them nesting during the day. So that was awesome and great for me to also learn something as you read the book. So thanks for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate the book, and I enjoy Jada's journey. And I too, hopefully, one day will be able to have my own journey under the sea. So, a couple questions for you. What was your inspiration for writing this book?
So I was inspired to write this book. One, because I am a marine biologist or a marine microbiologist, which means that I study the small things in the ocean that you can't see without a microscope. But I am passionate about the ocean, and I'm passionate about other people making the connection between their human health, their overall kind of like vibrance and in support from the ocean. So I was inspired to write this book to connect people with ocean science, particularly particularly young people. And again, as a marine biologist, I grew up really connected to science overall, but never had the words or the language to say that I wanted to be a marine biologist. So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if young people were exposed to ocean science at an early age in a fun and innovative way, so they know that being a marine scientist is an option for them?
Yes, thank you for that. Another question. Um, in Jada's journey under the sea, she was, of course, scuba diving. So, do you have a scuba diving experience?
No, I did most of my research on Hawaiian sea slugs, and I was grateful to snorkel to collect my samples. So I don't have, I would say, official diving experience per se. I've been undersea quite a bit, snorkeling, but no, unfortunately, have never gone through the certification process to be a diver. But that's okay, because the journey under the sea is not just about diving, it's about your journey under the sea, whether that's snorkeling, whether that's being connected to the beach, whether that's being a marine scientist who doesn't, have to snorkel or dive for your samples. Maybe you just wade in the water. You still have a journey under the sea. So it really is for everyone to be connected to the sea, whether they dive or not. But for Jada, it was just cool and interesting for her to dive under the sea, because you can see so much of the life and get exposure to so many things under the sea.
Thank you for that. And I love how you said, like, we're all connected to the ocean, and that's the truth. From the food we eat to even the medicine that some of us use, there's some type of connection to the ocean. Now, for Jada, she's seen a lot of cool, fascinating creatures. What is your favorite sea creature? For me, it's the Kent Ridley sea turtle. I may be biased because I work with them, but they're one of my favorite species of sea turtle and sea creature.
Yeah. They are pretty awesome. I never worked with Kim Ridley's, but I've worked with green sea turtles quite a bit. And you showed a picture of me in the beginning. That was in San Diego Bay collecting a 250-pound sea turtle. So I had a chance to do some research with sea turtles, and they by far are one of my favorites. But I would have to say the all-time favorite, and I'm also biased, are sacoglossans. They are a particular type of marine sea slug. And sacoglossan literally stands for sap sucking. So they have these specialized tool, or I would say a special, I call it like a specialized tool. It's called a radula, where they can puncture the algal diets that they eat, and they can take up chloroplasts. And it allows them to camouflage in with the diet, the algal diets. And it also allows them to take up the chemistry of these of the algal diets. So they're really interesting creatures. There's been a lot of research around them photosynthesizing. So they are known to be the only metazoans on the planet that can photosynthesize actively by taking up this chloroplast. So they're really fascinating, interesting creatures. They're beautiful. They're not like the sea slugs or the slugs that you see in your backyard. They're brightly colored. They're beautiful. They're also known as the leaves that crawl, because they also take up the often shape of the algal diets that they eat. So really fascinating creatures. I'm biased, but those by far are my favorites.
That's awesome. They're pretty cool. So I just learned of a new sea slug that I never heard of. I believe it's the giant hair. Have you heard of those?
I have. I have. They're pretty cool too. I mean, and I think, again, I always go back to when you hear the word slug, you think of, a pest in your garden, but these are like brightly colored. Um, the one that you're referring to is like this beautiful blue color. Like they're just amazing, fascinating creatures. So yeah, I have heard of the giant sea hare.
Nice, nice. Another question. You talk about science being for everyone and being your authentic self. Could you give us a little bit more about what it means to be your authentic self as a scientist and also as a Black woman in the marine science field?
Yeah. So you highlighted that quote earlier and kind of talked about your experience. And I think for me, science being for everyone represents a few things. It represents what you said earlier about, having this diversity even within the field. And diversity in that way is not necessarily limited to gender or race, but it's diversity and expertise. I always say that I'm a marine microbiologist and talk about the things you can't see because it's often assumed because I am a marine biologist that I'm studying whales or dolphins or some of the charismatic microfauna. But we know that even within the field, that there are these nuances and all of these interesting things to study in the ocean environment. We also know that there's so much to discover and explore. And so I think science is for everyone represents the diversity of expertise within the ocean environment because we need so many different ways of thinking to problem solve with the ocean overall. So it being for everyone represents diversity and expertise and also like indigenous knowledge. I think it also means expanding the traditional view of how we approach ocean science and problem solving. So that means, interacting with indigenous and native uh, tribes and organizations and community, and also utilizing and collaborating with them in terms of their knowledge, because how they study the ocean could be different from how we study the ocean modern day, but that it's still for them too. It's still for everyone. And then it also is about the gender and the age and, nationalities and all of that, because when we do show up as our authentic selves, so like for an example, as a Black woman, I may have a different perspective from a white male, right? Because we have different cultural experiences and we get to bring those experiences to ocean science and problem solving for ocean science. But either way, I think it's important that it's for everyone and for everyone to be their authentic selves as they're doing it. Because if we're all one track minded, if we're all just doing what everyone says to do, then that's no diversity. And we know that when you have more diversity, you're more likely to be innovative and creative and problem solve. And so that's what science is for everyone means, and making sure that everyone is welcome and included in the field of science.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you for that. Speaking of diversity, let's talk to our younger generation future scientists. What advice do you have for someone who is looking to get into the scientific field, or someone who may be younger who think that right now their role in science is not important? What advice and tips would you give to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's also, again, going back to the inspiration for this book, is to kind of connect people with ocean science, but particularly young people, because they do need to know and understand that their voices are important, and that they too have, um, they too also, they also, they also get to be a part of this conversation, but also they're impacted by what is going on with the ocean. So I think there's sometimes this notion or understanding that young people shouldn't be involved, but it actually impacts them. It impacts everyone on the planet, so they should be involved. And the advice that I would give to those who want to enter this field of marine science is you belong here. That's always my advice. You belong here. Yes, there are, and there's education, there's internships, there's experience, there's exposure, there's all these cool things that you get to do within the field to better understand the ocean and hone your craft and cultivate skills. But you also belong here just because you want to be here, right? So if you don't have a degree, you still belong in ocean science. There's still a place for you. And if you have the highest level of degree, you belong here because there's a place for you. If you're the oldest person on the planet, you belong here in their space. And if you're the youngest person, like you belong here, their space. So my advice is you belong here and pursue the things that excite you about ocean science.
Yeah, thank you for that. A couple more questions. Going back to Jada's journey under the sea, she talked a lot about the wide range of animals that she was able to experience during her journey. What advice would you give to someone who maybe they want to work with some of these animals, but they may be afraid to get in the water like Jada has?
Oh, what advice would I give? Whew. I would say first, learn to connect and feel comfortable with the ocean. And that could be as simple as taking a walk along the beach. It could be, as simple as, walking into the ocean without, walking to the ocean, but making sure that you can still stand, being comfortable with floating, and really just like feeling comfortable with being in the ocean environment. I think that's key. And I think that helps you with exploring organisms under the sea, just first feeling comfortable. Another piece of advice is have a buddy go with you, right? Like have kind of like an accountability partner or someone who you feel safe and comfortable with exploring. And most often, even with diving and going into the ocean and doing field work, that is, common practice and recommended. But those are some other ways to kind of help you feel safe and comfortable. But lastly, even if you find that you're comfortable with, being in the ocean, but not diving, that's okay, because there are a lot of people who are amazing certified divers and collect samples. That happened quite a bit for me. Like, so for the sea slug that I was studying, the main one I was looking at for the purpose of trying to find the producer of this interesting anti-cancer compound. But I wanted to expand and look at the bacterial community beyond natural products or medicine, and look at the bacterial community of sea slugs from all over. And I had an amazing lab mate, colleague, and friend. Shout out to Dr. Jan Vicente, who is like, I don't even know the levels of diving, but he's like platinum. Like he's just like, he dives everywhere all the time. He has like the highest level of certification in diving. And he would go to the Puerto Rico, to the Bahamas, and all of these places where they also have sea slugs. And so even though I was collecting in Hawaii, where I had to scuba, he, throughout his diving and collecting sponges for his work, he would also collect sea slugs for me in these beautiful places that require diving. So even if you can't get to the point where you feel comfortable with diving, find an amazing colleague and expert who is great at diving and collaborate with them to help collect some of the samples or organisms that you would like to study.
Well, thank you for that. All right, last question. what's next for you? You are a best-selling author. You're a great scientist. So what's next for you?
Um, what is next for me? I think I'm going to continue to serve in the field of marine science the best way that I can, the most authentic way that I can. And so that means continuing to do research. In my current position, I'm an ocean policy advisor at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA. And I am using a lot of my scientific understanding and expertise and research experience to advise and provide recommendations and suggestions around ocean management and policy. And so I found that to be really interesting and amazing. I can't believe it, but I am doing a postgraduate degree currently at George Washington Law, where I'm essentially doing this postgraduate in policy making and congressional affairs. And that's not something that I would have ever thought that I would be doing, especially after getting a PhD. So, but the more that I get involved in policy and decision making, I am just interested on how law is written and what Congress considers when they are creating laws, when they are appropriating money or spending for science. What role does federal agencies play in implementing that law? And so I think that I will continue to kind of stay in this arena and combine this policy with research science, and making sure that like when laws and policies are made, that we are using the best available science and research to incorporate that into our decision making. So I'm going to continue to do that, continue to come out with more children's science books. So we went over Jada's Journey Under the Sea, but my very first children's science book was Science is Everywhere, Science is for Everyone, that introduced a variety of sciences, including oceanography. And so Jada's Journey focuses on oceanography. But in that first book, there were so many different sciences to explore that are also connected to, ocean and environmental sciences overall. So I'm going to continue to develop characters and explore other sciences for the public and for young people, so that they can see that they can be in the field of science. And then lastly, I'm going to continue to advocate for, people to connect with science, for people of color to feel included in this field, for women to feel included in this field, for all marginalized groups to feel like they can contribute and feel safe in this field. So that's what's next for me. And yeah, that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Thank you for that. You're doing great things, and we really appreciate it. Before we go, why don't you tell people where they can get the books Jada's Journey Under the Sea at, and Science is Everywhere, Science is for Everyone?
Sure. So you can find Science is Everywhere, Science is for Everyone, both the English and Spanish version. So I forgot to mention that to be more inclusive. It's been translated into Spanish. You can find the English and Spanish version, as well as Jada's Journey Under the Sea, on my website. It's www.drjeanettedavis.com. I'm also known as Dr. Ocean. So if it's easier, you can find it at www.drocean.science. And you can spell it DROCEAN, or you can spell out doctor. Either way, it'll take you to the website. The books are also available online at Amazon, at Target, Walmart, Books A Million, a few other places I can't remember, but it's on Amazon. Oh, Barnes and Noble. But if you want autograph copies, you should definitely go to my website, because I offer autograph copies through my website, www.drjeanettedavis.com. And you can also follow me on social media, Dr. Ocean 24 on Twitter. and Dr._Ocean24 on Instagram.
All right, everybody, you heard it yourself. Go get your books and follow Dr. Davis. Dr. Davis, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. For everyone else, we'll see you next week, not next week. We'll see you at the next installment of Ben's Read. Thank you for joining us and have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.